I know somebody ain't calling my girl. It's what time is it? 8 o'clock. Oh, you lying? Hold on.
Welcome back to Rae's Corner. On today's show, we have Tati Richardson, who debuted last year with the build up. Super excited to have a conversation with her and also talk about her indie ventures and what are coming up next. You're going to see me in another outfit because my recording was not going great, and we find that out in post, of course. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Tati Richardson to get things going.
Thank you, Ray. I'm so excited to be here. So excited.
Tati is a mother, a higher education worker, a wife, a podcast host, and founder. She has a lot under her belt. And so I wanted to know what a day in the life of Tati looked like.
Who girl? Like a typical Monday through Friday is me getting up at like 5:15, getting my daughter together, making sure she looks good, straight, and then I go back to sleep for like a couple minutes. Then I get back up and I start my day. I work pretty much, 7 to 4, 4:30, and then after that, get my family fed and all that good stuff. Get my daughter to bed, and then after that is the second job, which is writing. Um, so that's from like I don't know, 7 something to maybe bedtime, whatever bedtime is. Sometimes it's 10, 11 o'clock. Um, and I still try to get some good hours of sleep because I'm not good when I don't function on a lot of sleep. And on the weeks I have the podcast, the writing is pushed a little later in the week. But then on the weeks that don't have the podcast, I can pretty much write every night, without any interruptions or anything like that. But yeah, that's a typical week for me. And then, like I said, the weeks I have the podcast, I have people come on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then it's editing the podcast probably Wednesday night, when I get home from work, and then yeah, putting it out on Friday. So it's it's crazy. That's all. It's crazy. It's a lot of it used to be a lot of coffee, but I've cut back on my coffee, and I've cut back on my rosé, so I can't say that either. So it's just a lot of water and praying at this point. So yeah, I try to keep a schedule. I do use a um actual planner, like a paper planner, and I write everything out. Physical planner, because it's the only way. If I see it, then I know I need to do it. I know I can keep this schedule, and so I definitely do that. Put all my writing schedule in there, what I need to do, chapters I need to work on, so on and so forth. I break it all down that way. So yeah, I definitely I have good use of my planner. Yeah.
I got jealous of her planner game. And so I was like, I'm going to need to get on that level because I also like planners, but I don't ever keep them with me like I should. And therefore, I needed some tips.
Yeah, I did a custom layout with Planner. This is not sponsored, but it was with Plum Planner, so I could be able to put like specific for each day, have specific blocks for me. So it'll say like writing, or to say like podcast, or to say So I was able to put like customize it for me and my what I do as a podcaster and an author. So yeah.
We all know that social media is a big part of our lives now. The thing is, we don't all like it the same way. And so Tati has a very interesting presence. I enjoy watching her TikToks and reading her blog posts and, going over her newsletter and seeing the different stuff that she posts all the time. And so I just kind of wanted to know like how she feels about what all the stuff that she has to do in social media and like what her favorite aspect of being on these different platforms is.
I think I kind of grew up with social media. I'm at that age where I'm a dinosaur at this point when it comes to the internet. But the age where it was ASL, age, sex, location, and the chat rooms and all that stuff. So I kind of grew up with the internet, so I'm comfortable with that. And like I said, I had a blog for many years and stuff like that. And so I'm just kind of comfortable with social media. And when things kind of change to more of a like visual Instagram, TikTok type of thing, I was a little wary because I was like, "Oh, I don't know about putting my image out there. It used to be just about my words, not really images. And so I had to think about it for a while, but I was like, well, how do I really want to use this platform? Before my Instagram was focused on writing, it was more about like just random things that I liked or whatever. But then I was like, if I'm gonna be serious about this, I basically just switched the whole thing around and turned it into like my Instagram for writing and the podcast and stuff like that. But I, some stuff I do schedule out. I mean, I do, like I said, I schedule stuff. So some posts are scheduled. Some posts are spur of the moment. Like the TikTok stuff is mostly spur of the moment, but the stuff on Instagram is usually scheduled out. So I try to schedule the Instagram posts. Unless you see like a random picture of me, that's probably from the day of. But like if it's like something having to do with like my books or the podcast or an event, there all that stuff is usually scheduled out like ahead of time, so I can not really worry about it and make sure it's posted when it's time for it to be posted. So I use whatever app there is to like schedule out posts and stuff for social media. I don't really. I used to do it on X/Twitter, but I I feel like I just post randomly on there now. Like it's mostly about TikTok and Instagram now. Kind of been my focus, but I go on Twitter every now and then. But it's usually like, hey, follow me here, or hey, I'm doing this, or I'm just saying something just random out of the side of my neck. But 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 usually it's just like But usually those posts aren't scheduled. Everything else is scheduled. Yeah.
uh to the note about who you write for, which you have said multiple times you write for xennials, and I love that. And we need more people who will just be like, yes, this is what I do with a whole chest. But like, and for people who don't know what a xennial is, because whatever, it's right after millennial that bleeds out of the two. So you have late 30s, early 40s, that age, and a little bit older, a little bit younger. So I am
It's like right between Gen X and millennials, that little pocket right between. So it's like people born in like 77 and like 84, 85.
exactly like it's right there. Anyway, some people don't think that that's a romance because for whatever reason, people over the age of 40 can't be in love and getting their back blown out.
Child.
Beyond the fact that that is an age range that you are in, why do you think it's so important to highlight love and life after 40?
Cause I'm at for me, I'm at a point in my life that I don't know if I would write 20-year-olds well. Like I don't know if I know that life that well, even though one of my next books is going to be somebody in their 20s, but only because it's set at a college. I mean, otherwise, you know what I'm saying? You know. But anyway, I I just I don't know if I know that life anymore, and plus I just want to highlight the lived experience of my friends and people in my age group who I know are still trying to find love and still are looking for love and seeking love and who want romance that are like that will sweet that and to read romance particularly that will take them away and they can relate to and stuff like that. And sometimes it's hard to relate to stories that don't feature just like with race, what I'm saying, that don't feature your age demographic because you're like these silly 20-year-olds making these crazy mistakes, but 40-year-olds make mistakes too, but those mistakes have different consequences sometimes. And so that's what a lot of folks want to read. They want to read stories about people who they can truly relate to, like, oh, this person is how can they balance career and motherhood, how can they're going through a different phase of their life, they're going through menopause. Like, how are they supposed to, have sex again? Stuff like that. Their bodies have changed after childbirth. Are men going to find me attractive? These are all questions that people in my age range think about a lot. And when it comes in terms of men, I think a lot of men who are single, who are my age, are honestly, they're lonely, and they're just like, I don't know, have I lost? Is my time up? Am I just gonna be by myself? Am I, is love not, for me? All this stuff. So there's a lot of things going on, and then a lot of men have had, men and women have had experiences of, losing partners, or transitioning from jobs, or having to take care of a parent, or it's like all these other things, factors go into, okay, do I also have time to be in love and be in a relationship? And those are the type of things I want to put into books.
Just curious, like coming off of wanting to highlight stories of people, um,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, that are going, dealing with the loss of a loved one, dealing with life later on, and bumbling through things that people who are younger might also deal with. You wrote the buildup.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Yes.
again, I had mentioned earlier on, is like super cute, and it also grapples with situations um
Yes.
that, yes, it is a romance. Yes, you're going to get love, you're going to find these two people growing together, but they also have to deal with themselves apart as well as
Mm-hmm.
together. So like there's things going, like it starts with her dealing with the wardrobe malfunction situation. Like
Yes. A terrible, terrible day. The worst first day of work ever.
and then running into this man, and you're just like, of all people,
Yes, of all days.
um but just I kind of am curious what writing that story, like what the process was of getting that to where it is, getting the
Ooh.
and kind of like how you felt through all of that, because before that, that was your debut, so like.
Mhm. Yeah, like, I had, been, when I decided I was gonna try and pursue this writing thing, I had written something before that, and it wasn't that good. I'll admit it, it just wasn't good. I was trying to write something that I thought I wanted to be like, I guess, you know what I'm saying? No tea, no shade to Hallmark or anything, but I thought I wanted to write those type of stories. And then when I looked back and I read it, I said, "Oh, this isn't me. This is not my voice. This is not the story I want to tell." And so I started thinking about, just who am I and what kind of story I want to tell. So I want to tell a story about, a plus size woman who's black, who's in Atlanta, who's a professional, but she's had some challenges. What could be a challenge she's going through? Maybe it's a job situation, blah, blah, blah. I definitely knew it was going to be a workplace romance. And she was going to fall for the coworker, but what would be the, push and pull? Why wouldn't they, try to be together and stuff like that? The stakes. And so I kind of crafted the build up right before the pandemic. So it
Mhm.
was like 2019. I started writing it at the same time. I had started the podcast. All this was going on at the same time. And then I finally finished it. Hopefully you don't hear that train in the background. But I finished it, and I was like, okay, what do I do with it? Um You're not gonna believe this. That is my work phone. Hold on. I know somebody ain't calling my girl. What time is it? Oh, you lying. Hold on. But
um
I was
yeah.
saying, like, yeah, I crafted the build up around right after the pandemic, 2019. So 2020, I think they did DV Pit. And then at the same time, I had joined because I said I was gonna get serious about this writing thing. I was like, if I'm gonna be serious about writing, I need to study the craft of writing. I need to be, you know, into it, just like I was when I was a PhD student.
Mhm.
I put my PhD on hold to actually pursue this thing, and so I, joined an inclusive romance project. And I got with a mentor at the time, Kilby Blades. I joined their mentorship program. I participated in DV Pits. I got a lot of interest in the manuscript that I pitched out. And during my mentorship time, I decided to kind of craft and, you know, really refine the manuscript because I got some interest. And one of them was through Harlequin, and they said, we love it, but can you revise it and resubmit it? So I took that my mentorship time to revise and resubmit and get it together. And then I submitted it to Harlequin and another publishing house, and I just waited and waited and waited. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's gonna happen with it. And at first I was gonna pull out, and I was like, I don't know. I think around the same time, also like right before that, I joined Word Makers too. So like I was really trying to get in community with other writers and trying to make sure I'm doing this whole thing right. So like right after my birthday that year, I think it was 2021, um, I got a call. They were like, "Yeah, we're interested in the manuscript. We're gonna want to publish it." And I was like, "Wow, okay, that's cool." And I was really, really shocked. Really shocked. I was like, "Oh wow, it's my first, my first like big thing that I'm doing. I couldn't believe it." But yeah, that was a super cool experience. To go through that, and I learned so much from publishing my first book, and like the ins and outs of traditional publishing, like the timelines you have to meet, the whether from the art to on the cover to like the line edits, developmental edits, all this stuff. And overall it was a great experience. I don't have any complaints.
Right.
It was a really good experience for me. It was a great learning experience, and something like there's some good and bad and things. I'm like, okay, well, going into my next traditional publishing thing, I hope I can do this differently and do that differently. So you live and learn. But overall, I'd say it was a good experience. And for me to be able to like get a story out about a woman that I know exists, and I know that exists in my friend circle, exists in the people around me, was so gratifying because you know I it just when the book came out, it just warmed me, when other women, the black women, the plus size women, like, oh my god, I see myself in this book. And I loved it. It was so cute. I love that Porter was just down bad for her from the beginning, and I knew going into it, I did not want to write. And that was the other thing when I was crafting the book. I was like, I don't want to write a plus size woman who had low self esteem. I didn't want to write a plus size woman who was like, oh, woe is me. And I certainly didn't want to write a male main character who like has a grand epiphany, like, oh my God, despite her being fat, I'm in love with her. He wanted her from the beginning. I just wanted someone who wanted her and saw her for who she was from the beginning. Everybody else's problem is their problem with her fatness. It's not a problem that she has with who she is. She knows who she is. And
Yeah.
anytime she's aggravated, it's because of somebody else. It has nothing to do with her and her own self-esteem. So I knew that it was at the heart of the character of Ari. I knew that's who I wanted her to be, and I knew that I wanted Porter to be, you know, a kind of complicated guy who still was like head over heels for his coworker when he knew he really shouldn't be, and she knew she shouldn't be in love with her coworker due to all the other crazy circumstances going on in their lives. But yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that book. Like I said, a lot of lessons learned in the publishing process of it. But I'm glad that that was my first book to come out. Um, because like I said, it allowed me to kind of hone my voice and what I want my writing to be, which is like, witty and funny and, full of references that only people in my demographic and race would get. If I'm talking about, R&B and stuff like that, and you don't know these groups, then like I'm sorry, like I can't help you. I can't help you now. Or talking about a a certain, time period in our lives, or something, or HBCUs, which is, also important to me as a HBCU grad, or, Greek life, whatever it is, it all is kind of touched in these, in that first book. So I basically just wrote a book about a person who was in my, demographic, who exhibited some of the same things I did, but had a definitely was a lot more quirky and irreverent than I ever think I could be. I don't think, but yeah, it was fun. It was a fun experience.
And so, your book birthday was yesterday for the build up. So, but I'm just curious, like coming off the heels of that, like it is a year later. What is
Yeah.
something that you've kind of been dealing with? I know that you had a deal announced at the end of January, and we'll talk about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
after the build up, all the build up that came, then it's like the tumble down the hill kind of
Oh
after the
yeah.
situation. Like, how have
Yeah.
you been dealing with that?
Man, I guess I just decided just to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
Because at first, and to be very candid with you, I thought, that the publisher would be interested in my second book, following another character from the build up, but they were kind of lukewarm on it. So I
Mm,
felt kind of crushed. I was like, okay, maybe they're not interested in that. And no harm, no foul. They're not
yeah.
interested, they're not interested, So I was like, oh God, what's gonna be the next thing? And then, I got to give props where props is due. Being in word makers, being around all these phenomenal indie authors, I was like, oh, maybe I could just do something indie in the meantime and see how that goes. It's supposed to be an experiment, girl. But
We're gonna talk about that too.
yeah, it was supposed to be like a little fun little experiment just to keep my writing chops fresh while the next thing happens. And in between that time, I had gotten an agent, and she was like, what is your brand? And so, as we talked earlier about what my brand would be, so what do you want the next thing that you write to be? And I said, yeah, I don't know, I want to write something different, something that's like kind of rom-commy but has other elements in it, kind of a genre mashup. So we talked about that. And so in between that time, I wasn't hearing anything, but I was still working on something new, working on several things new. And then finally I finished that particular manuscript. And then I was like, oh, I got this little indie idea in my head. Let me write that too. Then girl didn't think nothing of it. Just was like, oh, this is just a little indie thing, and have been inspired by, authors that, in fellowship with, like, A.H. Cunningham, Rebecca
Mhm.
Witherspoon, people like that who write great, you know, erotic poly romances. I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna try. Let me see how it goes. And so, I just kept myself busy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got sad for a little while. I got sad for quite a few months because it was a little depressing. To have this, book baby come out and win awards and have good reception. I'm thinking, oh man, this is it. This is, I'm Amazon's best, one of Amazon's best books of the year. Blah blah blah. This is it for me. And then you like, okay, well, what? Nobody's, you know, biting. Nobody's biting for the things that I'm interested in. And so I just had to take some time, take a step back, and just really reevaluate what I want to write and stay true to myself and say, well, this is your brand, and
Mhm.
branch out and try to see if those things will fly. And I think it's for the most part, I think I did all right in between.
Yeah, so your little foray into indie for a moment under TM Richardson,
Yes,
the
yes,
Oath. So,
yes.
Tatum and Cassidy and Beacon and Miles.
My favorite quad of people. My favorite quad of
Yeah.
people.
And they all have their own personalities, which some people don't do well, but as you named A.H. Cunningham
Hmm.
and Rebecca Weatherspoon, like
Hmm.
they are two of my favorite or authors who write like across the board. What they write is great, but like their
Yeah.
poly, their erotica is just erotic romance as well. It's
Mhm.
just it grabs you because it's like there's a story, which you
Yes.
also have in the O's, but
Yes.
there's also this lovely romance and everything that each of them are kind of dealing with separately as they come
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I remember you saying like, "Oh, I just put this out for to do something fun, and I just wanted to do something different. It's not all that sexy, girl."
I was working on it when y'all came to the retreat here in Stone Mountain. That's what I was working on. And I was just like, I had finished the other manuscript, I was waiting to hear back. And so that's
Mhm.
why I was kind of and so I was doodling with this thing. I was like, I'm just gonna see what happens, put it out, whatever, just kind of messing around and did not think it was gonna blow up like this. I said, what in the world? I was like, okay,
There, Black love, Black grief, and still finding love.
yes.
And like you grapple with a very difficult topic. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and for those who have not read the Oath and might be interested, it does grapple with her not only losing her husband, but he had cancer,
Mm-hmm.
which is really difficult. And anyone who has lost a loved one of some sort to cancer, like that is a lot to
Mm-hmm.
deal with on top
Yeah.
of now being by yourself. And yes, she has a son,
Mm-hmm.
but she also had her friends and his friends,
And his friends, yes.
some a little bit more than others. She had them a lot. Um,
Bye.
but it's just like, for me, like to be 100% honest, like the cancer was difficult, obviously, because it's always
Mm-hmm.
hard to like listen to or read or
Yeah,
whatever, hear a story basically about
yeah.
kind of situation, because in some realm, like even if it's seven degrees of Kevin Bacon,
Right, right. You know
like
somebody, yeah.
somebody, or somebody, or somebody who knows somebody, whatever. But like for me, the most difficult part was a couple of paragraphs she wrote, and it was about her having lost her parents in a car accident, and it was like
Oh,
super quick, and I was just like, pause, I can't read anymore right now because I lost somebody in a car accident. So
oh, I'm so sorry.
no, 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 no. It's you can't warn for everything. One, two. It's just like it's one of those things like that also happens to a lot of people. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna cry. I'm fine. But I was just like,
Oh my goodness.
oh shoot. Like not only did she already experience a really traumatic loss,
Mhm,
she had to see her husband in the way that she saw him and
mhm.
try to grapple with that. And she kind of like waved off her parents, like, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. But I wonder like if that was something that also made and compounded the loss of her husband too, because
I definitely think so.
she was with him
Yeah, yeah. Like
for
for
that for 22, almost 23 years, or
yeah.
basically like she had her flings and her jam before him, but like she lost her parents, then she lost the love of her life, and then she gained three more, even though she didn't want to say love, whatever.
Yes.
Um, just how do you like? What did you go through writing those four characters? Because she had a lot that she had to grapple with, but they were also trying to express their care and concern for her in their own ways, and they all
Yeah.
had very different personalities.
Yeah. I just thought about, well, I lost my mom 2015. And so I've still been grappling with that grief. I'm not gonna lie to you. Every book, I think everything I've written so far has had some kind of underlying grief in it, and I don't, and it's not a conscious thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really is an unconscious thing that I'm doing. Even my traditionally published book is gonna have cancer and grief in it, and I'm like, oh Lord, they're gonna think I just write about cancer and death, and I don't want that to be, I don't want that to be. That's not funny, but I don't want that to be my
Yeah.
my thing.
But
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But for me, like totally Tatum's loss as a kid. She was a kid, so she's like, oh, just wave it off. It was so long ago, but not realizing that she's had loss after loss, and having to deal with that and this profound loneliness that she feels like, and then on top of that, the loss of being a mom. Her son is grown. Her son is gone out the house. You know, he's gone. He's gone to do his internship or whatever in DC. But he's grown. You know,
Yeah.
he's grown. He's out the house. He's about to graduate college. And she's like, okay, I'm literally I am empty nesting. There's nobody here. No one, not my husband, not my son. I am alone. You know, I don't have grandparents. I mean, I don't have parents. You know, I have my cousin who is like my sister, but and I have my best friend, but I don't have anyone that's close to me. And so she feels that profound loneliness. And then again, compounded by the loss of her husband. But then these men come in, they too have experienced some sort, they've lost their best friend. But
Mhm.
not only that, when you get into kind of each of their stories, they're kind of like, they're all kind of dealing with the things that they're dealing with. Um, and you realize, oh, we get, it, Tatum realized, well, I got a lot more in common with these guys than I thought. Not It's not just the physical attraction, although that's high, that's there, but um, you know, there's something else there. There's stuff we can talk about outside of the bedroom, basically.
Yeah.
So when Franklin has his best friends make this oath to take care of his wife in every way possible, he really does mean every way possible, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, whatever. And it's not just about the freaky deaky that they do, even though the freaky deaky is fun. But it's about them bonding and caring for each other, because I guess he knew that they needed each other more than they thought.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is, I think, like reading it, you see that as like a theme, that there seems to be certain realizations that not only she makes, but like through her eyes you can see them make,
Hmm.
which I think is really interesting because again, not a lot of people write multiple characters well when they're all the main character. Like side characters, some people do side characters great, and then their
Yeah.
main fall flat, or vice versa.
Right. Right.
And it's unfortunate, but it happens. But like
Mhm.
being able to write a cast of characters who all have their own separate personalities that complement each other, like
Yeah.
you, chef's kiss. Just it was really
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
And again, you had said you were in conversation with A.H. Cunningham,
Hmm.
Weatherspoon, who do it well.
Yeah. 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 And I was like, you know, particularly age, I was like, well, what's the hint? Like, what should I do? Like, is and because when I asked her, is this premise crazy? Like, because I asked her first, I said, does this sound crazy? She said, no, it doesn't. You should write it. I said, okay.
That
So
sounds
I was
like
like,
her.
all right, I'm gonna write it in. Because at first I was like, I know a lot of people reading them like, yeah, all right. The husband's like gonna be like okay with this, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility. Like
Right.
there are people who are terminally ill who literally want their partners to go and find somebody before they die. I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
That's not a strange thing.
It's
So
not
for me,
suspending belief.
no, it's not. Even though, you know, on TikTok, it's so funny. Women were asking their husbands, like, "Oh my God, would you do this if something happened?" Hell no, I wouldn't do that. No, 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 no. I'm gonna come haunt you from the grave and all kind of stuff. Which I
That
thought
just
was
means they don't
funny.
trust their friends.
They don't trust their friends, and they don't trust their wife. But if you had a relationship with your wife and your friends, maybe, and y'all trusted each other, maybe it would be better, but anyway, I'm not in their business like that. I'm not in folks' business. But yeah, I thought at first, I thought the premise was crazy, but again, learning from them, from her, from ML Bash, from other people that I've read, I was like, you have to make the reader fall in love with each of these people, so
Hmm.
you realize why the female main character, particularly, why she's not gonna choose anybody. I can't choose anybody. I love them all.
Hmm.
Everybody got their personal favorite out of the men in this book, but for me, I can't pick one because I feel like they all bring, like you said, something different. Like um, Miles and Deacon have known her the longest, but Miles has truly been in love with her like a long time, even though he had a wife and it imploded, blah blah blah. And even though she thought Deacon was out there and doing his thing and da da da, he saw her first and was like, I saw you first. I was like, I want to see what she's about. But then they kind of, bro code. They was like, okay, our dude was like, oh, it's gonna be my wife. All right, let me step back. But they still, in liked her.
Yeah.
And even though Cassidy is kind of a newish friend, hasn't known them that as long as them, you know, this guy who's all macho and, kind of, but smart, macho and smart and kind of, um, real, manly and masculine, just gets dumbstruck in front of this girl and he can't say nothing. Like, oh God. And like, people are like, well, how did the husband had to know that his friends was feeling his wife? Of course he did, Of course he
Why?
did. Otherwise, he wouldn't have set this up. So, I think they all bring something different. All bring things that she knows she needs. All are a little bit of her husband
Yeah.
too. They're all three of them are like one Franklin. They can't be Franklin, but all three of them together are they're not Franklin, but at the same time, all three of them together are the best of him. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
best of him with their own twist.
With their own twist, exactly, with their own twist. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And just to the note of like the question of because I try to when I read something, I always wonder like how would other people view this? And I was like, well, yeah, Franklin was very frank um,
Hmm.
when
No
he was
pun intended.
like, this is what I want you to, not be hung up on me and dealing with this loss once I'm gone. Like,
Hmm.
I don't want you to be a shell of yourself.
Right.
And so I think that yeah, guys know when guys are aware when something is up, but the
Hmm.
fact that they were respectful meant that that was his true friends and
Yes.
he would know that they would be safe and he could trust them to take care of her, which is obviously
Exactly.
he made that. Like that's what I was when I viewed Franklin, I was like, that seems to be what he was trying to portray to her. And she was like, hold on, honey, wait a second.
Like, what is
Sweetheart. But he's like, look, I'm dying. I love you. They good people. I'm
Yes,
like, they've known you for 20 some odd years and have
yes.
never tried nothing.
Tried nothing. Yes,
Them
yes.
is my boy. Well, except Cassidy, it's less years. But the point is, they have known you all this time and never made a move. Them is the
Right.
people you can trust to make sure that you are okay. And it's not just
Hmm.
sexual.
Right.
Like they will be there for you for everything. And
Hmm.
like Cassidy, just a throwaway, is a great handyman.
I mean, he's an engineer. Of course, he got to be a handyman. That was my logic. I was like,
He's
well,
also
he's an
very
engineer, you
handy.
know, and he's
Um,
handy, So he's very handy. You
very
know,
much.
and Miles is creative and well, Deacon is creative, and Miles is, the kind of the I'm gonna handle it, the handle it guy. Like you give me the problem, I'm gonna solve it. I get to throw some money in it and throw my weight around. So,
He's the brain muscle.
he's the brains, and Cassidy might be the muscle, and then Deacon is the creative, softer,
Fun one.
side. He cooks. He cooks all the time, and he wants to make sure she's fed. In more ways than one, but fed, and Cassidy wants to, Cassidy wants to make sure she's satisfied in more ways than one, and Miles just wants her to be completely taken care of all around. So it's just I
In all the ways. What do you
you
want?
know
What do
in all
you
the ways, in all the ways.
in
Yep.
all the ways? Um, so yes, that is a different side of you, but it
Yes.
also is basically like to an extent, it's in the same vein as what Tati puts out.
Hmm.
Like that's him, and it's more. it's more erotica,
Mhm.
erotic romance, and that kind of situation. Erotic romance, not erotica, different situations.
Yeah.
But um, but it still has that same theme that you carry through with the buildup with Tati.
Mhm.
And you were saying that it's kind of a similar situation that you have with losing sight, right? Which is
Mhm.
what was announced at the end of January. And I just want to
Yes.
read it. So, in case people don't know, the author of the build-up, Tati Richardson's Losing Sight, pitched as being Mary Jane meets Not Dead Yet, in which a celebrated sports reporter comes to terms with her failing eyesight, transforming her vision of the future with help from a widow optometrist. Why can't I never say that word? Supernatural occurrences and one powerful pair of glasses. And that's
Yeah.
supposed to come out in February next
Yeah.
year, February
Yes.
2020. Um, what can you tell us about this? Because it sounds like so interesting. Because like, how often do we hear about eyesight in a romance?
You know
And
what was so crazy? That like I said, when I was thinking of what to write next, my agent was like, I had this again. It was like just like with the oath. I was like, I got this. I thought it was a throwaway idea, straight up. I was like, I got this idea about a girl who gets like a magical pair of glasses, and like weird shit starts happening. She said, "Let's talk about that further." Let's talk about that further. So I was like, okay, so let me think about what this is gonna happen. But yeah, it has a little magical. We're calling it speculative romance. I wouldn't really call it magical realism, but there's ghosts in it. There's some supernatural weird things happening. There's like she's when she puts on the glass, she starts seeing things around people that kind of show their true nature of who they are, particularly men, particularly mostly men. Mostly, I say mostly men in her this circle that she encompasses. And all in all, she also meets a guy who happens to be her best friend's cousin. Who's an optometrist who's going to help her actually see. But not only does he help her see, all these sight puns are just in here. But he helps her like get a new like lease on life basically, and like makes her realize what's important. And again, he's dealing with the loss of his own wife, and supernatural weird things happen to him too. And so it's like I put to you the wife is pulling some strings here. So things are happening around them, and they're coming together and getting closer and closer, and 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 there's a reason why they're supposed to be together. But
it's so
hopefully y'all will enjoy it.
cute. We love like there's not a whole lot of, and speculative is so hard to like try to categorize because
It
everything
is.
sometimes gets thrown in there that we wouldn't necessarily consider speculative. And I'm not saying that this isn't that, but it's just like sometimes, especially with black spec, it's just like, oh yeah, that seems like it goes in that pot, let's throw that in there too. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just like we love a good black spec and we don't get enough of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, this isn't like NK Jemisin or nothing like that, so don't go in expecting that, but maybe a little touch of Isabella Allende a little bit, but um I I just I don't know. I think it's a fun story. Like it's definitely it definitely takes a lot of twists and turns with Tanika, who's the main character, who just like it, not only that, like I always say, and again, in addition to the plot, there's always something going on about us as 40-year-olds, as Black women. Tanika's resistant to aging. So she's like, in this industry where, sports journalism, the women on the sidelines and all this stuff, and how they gotta look good and blah 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 and all this stuff. You as a journalist, you know that. And so she's like reticent to like age. She doesn't want to age. She doesn't want to like be up here to get old. So her eyesight's been failing her, and yeah, she's resistant to getting glasses because she said, I don't want to look old. And our
No.
friends are like, that's so ridiculous. What are you talking about? She's like, look, I don't want to look old. It makes me feel old, like to get glasses, blah, blah, blah. Um, and so it comes a point where she needs them. Like she literally needs them in order to survive. And so that's where Gideon comes in, and he's kind of like the knight in shining armor, rescue. He's sweet, and he's surprisingly very, very sexy, very sexy. Like Porter is sweet. Porter was sweet, but Gideon is definitely like he's an undercover freak. Like he he definitely has this some so he says some things that'll make you go, okay, all
Let me
right.
get
The,
some
the
pearls
doctor
so
is
I can clutch
the
them.
doctor is making me sweat here.
The doctor
Um
is in.
the doctor is in for sure. So yeah, you know, and again, like you said, side characters are important too. So they have their, her best friends, and like I said, he's her best friend's cousin. So
Mhm.
like, it's like a little family thing going on. He has his sister-in-law, his sister-in-law, former sister-in-law that works with him, and all these cast of characters that you'll meet that I hope y'all enjoy. So it's a lot of sports. It's a lot of sports stuff in here too, because she's a sports reporter. So she meets a she meets guys from various sports along her way too. So yeah,
We
yeah.
love that though. Okay, I can't say we. I love that though. I have my sports romance that I write. So
Yes, yes.
give me all the sports. I can't write them, but I will read about them. I at one point thought sports journalism was going to be what I did, and then I was like, I only
Me
like
too.
football. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Me too. As an undergrad, I thought I was gonna do that, but that's okay. My homeboy went to high school. I mean, college where he's doing his thing. Bomani Jones, so he's doing his thing. So yeah, yeah. Y'all see him all over TV. I know. So
give
shout out to
him
Bomani.
we give him props all the time, especially because journalism is hard
Yes,
and
yes,
sports
yes.
journalism gets. I'm off topic, but like sports journalism gets treated like it's not important. And there are things that are happening that I think not only just for people who enjoy sports, but for people who want to know what's like things that are affecting athletes because it's not just like, oh, they scored, they won. It's like
Mhm.
these things are happening to these athletes that is not right, or these people are doing really good things for the community. Like, anyway, off my soapbox.
But no, you bring up a good point, because in losing sight, there are things about each of the athletes that um are important. For example, one guy's a race car driver. He's moving from F1 to stock car, right? And so
Hmm.
he's deciding to join this elite, this American thing as a black British guy. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
As a girl whose daddy is a certified black redneck, who like took me to all the NASCAR races. I've been to Darlington and Talladega and Daytona and all these things. Growing up as a kid, so I'm very familiar with racing and Lowe's and Charlotte and all that stuff. Um, it was easy for me to kind of talk about that. And plus, I got some help from my dad from certain things too in the book. But I'm familiar with what it's like as a black. Ain't that many black stock car drivers, child. It's like three, I think, right
Not on one
now.
hand.
On one hand, it's like three, which is way better than we had like 5 years ago. We only had one. We only had Bubba. But what that looks like. Sports is political, so there's like a political aspect of things going on in there. You know, there when it comes to women and jobs, there's a
Yeah.
political aspect going on in there. So it's never always cut and dry when in terms of like the plot or what's going on in a story. Um, the story got to be, meaty enough to like allow the romance to keep going too. You know what I'm saying? Like there's got to be something else that interests you.
They have to be three
Uh,
dimensional.
it has to be three-dimensional, exactly, to like, get people, interested in the rest of the story. So yeah, it was important for me to like you said, like show that sports has, deeper things going on to it. And plus as a female journalist in a male dominated industry with the things that she has to deal with too, and
As a sideline reporter for sure.
yeah, sideline reporter. So we I reference Pam Oliver and
Mm-hmm.
Jamel Hill and all these other people in there too. So, and it's a made up sports network and all that good stuff. So y'all, I hope y'all enjoy it.
Look, you
I'm a little
only make me
nervous.
more interested. So I'm just
I,
saying.
I'm nervous. We put out something new. You just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
what the people gonna say? But
It's the being perceived is
yes,
scary.
yes. The sophomore, you don't want the sophomore jinx to
Yeah.
happen there. So
So
yeah.
let's do something fun real quick.
Hey,
I want to play two games that I have decided that these are my favorites. I had other ones and I keep coming back to these because they're fun.
that's
I
fine.
guess like one, they're not really games, they're just like pop quiz kind of stuff. Whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, point is, um, this is your sophomore year. Like you had your debut last year.
Sophomore,
You
yeah,
have a
yeah.
sophomore book coming out next year. You're
Mhm.
in that vibe of like, what's next? Can you name a few authors who also are in this kind of phase that you're in where it's like you have one or two things out, you have something in the works that you are excited
Right.
for and like you can't wait for that is coming up, this year, next year, soon ish, that we should also be paying attention to.
That's very hard. Um, I think my girl Nue Kerwin has a book that's coming out. God, I can't tell you what the name of it is. Jesus Christ, because I'm terrible at that. But I know she's kind of going into her next book after um her debut. Um, who else? I'm looking on my bookshelf. Oh gosh. I want to say Regina Black's having something else soon.
That sounds familiar,
Um,
actually. Yeah. Um,
yeah, after Art of the Scandal, even though that just got picked up for a series.
oh,
So, excuse me, a television series. But yeah, I think she has something
I missed
too.
that news.
Um, and oh gosh. See, why you get me like this? I'm so bad at trying to name. So now I gotta look at my Kindle because I'm like, I got some arcs in here that don't come out till next year. So let me see. Um, okay, come back to me. I come back. Come back. Come back.
um, so then the other thing I wanted to ask about is, do you have a book near you?
Do I have a book near me?
Mm-hmm.
Which book? Any book?
Any book, your book, somebody else's book, anybody book.
I do. I have several books around me. Yes.
Pick up a book and flip
Okay.
the page.
I just started this one. So this is How to End a Love Story by
Oh, I remember
you
you
Farm.
talking about that.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this one. Yes, I have it. Yes.
Have you? How far into are you?
Literally on the first chapter.
Okay, well, we're gonna find out something fun together. Flip to page 121.
121. Let's see. Okay.
Read the first dialogue on the page.
Do you want to go see the high school? Sure, Helen says. You drive.
Dang, that was okay. That one's hard. I was gonna say, like, can you name a scenario where that has happened to you? But that's a random one. So
Don't want to go see the high school? Well, you know what? The other day, we were in the neighborhood where my old high school was, and I did ask my daughter. I said, "Do you want to go see where I went to high school?" And she said,
that
"Yeah."
is actually fitting.
She said, "Yeah." So it was like 5 minutes away. We had gone to get something to eat. It was like 5 minutes away, so we got to see the new. It's a brand new house. They film a lot of movies at the school there too. And so I said, "Yeah, this has been in a lot of movies." And so we went to see the high school and stuff like that. And she was like, "Oh, that's cool." They had changed so much of it. So yeah, I guess that kind of fits.
That is wild.
Yeah, that's I just thought about that. Yeah, that kind of
Okay,
fits.
let's do another book.
Okay. Okay, I'll get one of my books. Okay. What page we going to now?
Let's go to page 52.
Oh, this is early in here. Okay. This is the oath.
So, okay.
Okay.
What's your first dialogue? Ooh, at the beginning it's interesting. So,
Um, the first, I'm good. Want me to make you some coffee? Tatum shook her head. No, I'll take some of Aunt Birdie's sweet potato pie and a
oh
bourbon on the
no,
rock.
not that part. Okay. Okay, I know where you're at.
Frankie hid something behind his old cookie tin, thinking I wouldn't find it. Alyssa squeezed her cousin's hand. Sure thing, babe. I got you.
Okay, so since I know what's happening in the story at that moment, have you ever been in a situation where that's her cousin that she's talking to,
Yeah.
where you had someone that was there for you in that way?
Oh my God, of course. Like I mentioned earlier, my mom passed, and you know, I when you go through something like that, that's when you know who your true friends are. You know what I'm saying? Like you have friends and you have associates. And one of
That's
my
a word.
girlfriends, yeah, you got friends and you got associates, and then you got sisters, like people who really, really are there for you, and who are your sisters who are down for you.
Yes.
So I remember walking into the repast, like where this is occurring, and seeing one of my girlfriends who I didn't think was gonna come because I think she had to work or something. I didn't think she was gonna be there, but she was there passing out like food and something. I just started crying because I couldn't believe that she was there. And I just hugged her so tight. I was like, she was like, what? She said, what makes you think I wouldn't be here? And I said, you know what? That's your friend. That's your sister. That's somebody who's gonna be there for you. So yeah, yeah. Shout out to my friend Treese. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that made me sad. Dang it.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to make you
Like,
sad.
be
Okay, let's go
sad.
to
Let's
something
say
else. Let's go. Let's go to something else.
no, it's totally fine. I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, and I'm just curious.
Hmm.
Like you touched on it a little bit earlier in saying like you started the podcast the same time you had started writing
Hmm.
Build Up, but kind of what made you and you co-host with Yaki
My
Doctor.
friend, yeah, Dr. Yakini. Yes.
um, but y'all are in y'all fifth season.
Hmm.
And I'm just curious, like, what kind of made you want to do the podcast? And like, do you feel like it inspired your writing in any type of way?
Oh man, yeah, definitely. So Yakini and I wanted to start a podcast. So I've known Yakini for like 20 years. Again, one of these people that I've known forever, like one of my friends, true sisters. And I was like, I want to start a podcast. And I was like, I wanted, at first it was going to be just a lighthearted thing about like, Hallmark movies and Lifetime movies and all these things that we watch, especially around Christmas time and all this stuff. So Yakini was the only other person I knew that loved those types of movies like I did. And so she's like, cool, let's do it. And so it kind of evolved into not only talking about that, but also talking about, relationships and things in our 40s and all that kind of stuff. And then so we hit on some topics. We talked about, popular, hot topics in romance at the time. And, you know, after a while we kind of got a formula going. And then we interspersed, author interviews in there. And if when the first year we did it, we didn't really do that. And then the second year, I was like, oh, let's get some author interviews or whatever in here. She's like, oh, that's a good idea. And so I started doing, I feel like I was learning so much about the craft through other authors and through you coming on the podcast, through other people, just learning so much because I was such a raw, new person as a romance author. I was like, I don't feel like I know Jack. But like when I started talking to other authors and like learning their craft and learning how they process things and the things they went through to get published. So I feel like I learned so much. It was literally a crash course, hands-on training on how to, write romance and be a part of the community, the romance community. So I'm super grateful for that. Like I mean, I dove kind of head first into it and just having other authors come on and share their love of romance, share their love of writing, just really inspired me. Definitely inspired me to even want to dip my toe in the places that I'm doing now, like, trying new things and not being afraid to do things. Like talking to other authors really inspired me. That's what made me want to just, you know, go head first into other stuff. So yeah, podcast has been awesome. I don't know how long it's gonna go, but we're gonna see till the wheels fall off. Yakini, talks the pop culture stuff. She brings in a lot of times her own aspect from being a psychologist about love and things like that. So it's been really fun. It's and also been a way for us, the two of us, to bond because we're not physically in the same city. So we, get on here every other. It used to be every week, but now it's every other week because, of course, my writing schedule has picked up a lot. Now I'm deadlines and da. And so I told her, I said, girl, I can't do it every week. She said, that's fine with me because I can't do it every week either. So we were like, okay, every other week. Every other week is fine. And so it's been really nice to just connect as friends too while doing this. And we laugh probably more than we even like we talk about what we need to talk about. But yeah, it's been so much fun to do that. And then to hear these authors come on and really want to share their love of the craft has been so amazing to me. Like so appreciative. I'm so appreciative of it.
And so, just a little like a final note on
Ooh.
um what's next for you. We know that losing sight is coming, but like
Mm-hmm.
Tati Richardson, and we know that you've kind of teased other things that are gonna be coming. So
Man, a lot.
kind of right. Do you plan on maintaining that hybrid status for a while and still doing your indie and your traditional, or do you kind of want to really back in at some point and focus on one or the other?
I mean, the people I idolize do both. So, Rebecca does both, and Naima Simone does both, and I think Reese Ryan does both. Like all these people do both.
I think
That
so.
I like. I think she does both, but I think don't. If I'm wrong, Reese, please correct me. But a lot of the people I love do both, and so I want to be able to do both. And so I don't really want to give up one or the other. Because I like having the control, and the TM will be the place where I do the riskier things that I know that traditional publishing is not gonna go for. And it'll allow me to explore sexier topics and sexier things like that. And so hopefully I can keep it up. Um, you asked what's next, right?
Mhm.
Um, well, on the TM side, like I said, the Oath came out in December.
Mhm.
I got a 3-book audio deal with Dreamscape for the whole series. Shocking, shocking. And let me say I have to thank TikTok for that because had it not been for the girls talking about it on TikTok and spreading it like wildfire, my former editor at Harlequin, who now works for Dreamscape, would have been like, "So Tatiana, what you doing over there? Like, what is going on? You think you want to do an audiobook?" I was like, "What?" So yeah, that was really cool. And so the Oath comes out, the audiobook for it comes out in May. Shortly after that, The Offer, which is book 2, which is Alyssa's book, the cousin's book, comes out in July, and it's going to be a simultaneous release, audio, Kindle, KU, paperback, all of that coming out. So I'll probably have a cover reveal, probably about May or something. I said or something
Or
like,
something.
and then of course Losing Sight will be out in February, and then the final and third book in the Secret series will be out probably shortly after probably summer of 2025. I'm still working on it. I only got like a few chapters into that, but yeah, that'll close out the secret series. Just three. It's just gonna be 3 books. Everybody ain't getting no book, girl. It's like we don't 8-book series. My name is not Ashley Antoinette. I can't give y'all Ethic Part 9. So, and I love those freaking books, by the way. So this is no tea to her, no shade to her, because I be eating them books up. But but I can't write like that.
It's a lot to stay
I
in
gotta
one
close up
series.
shop at
It's
least
a
2-3
lot.
books. Yes.
Listen, I'm like, whoo, I'm tired. How many books are we in? Okay, so
I know. I was like, girl, it's one more. Okay, I'm gonna keep
I
rolling with
love
it. I'm gonna keep
reading it, but
rolling. I
trying
do
to do
too.
it, whoo.
I props to her because I don't see how she does it. I don't. Like I said, 2-3 books. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it. But I'm also working on, hopefully, crossing my fingers, a second book in the kind of losing sight world, where you know each book is supposed to have something to do with the senses. So
Mhm.
this book will have something to do with like,
You can't do that. You know why you can't do that? Because if you're doing something with the senses, we have at least five.
oh, I'm not doing all 5, girl.
So
No.
what you doing is you're setting yourself up for expectation. Readers are gonna be like, "Whoa, there are five senses that
Well,
we
then
know."
so and so needs a book too.
Oh,
I mean,
so we
it's
got
possible.
hearing
I
and
mean,
taste and smell.
now that I think about it, it's possible. There are enough people in that book for that to happen, but I don't know, girl. We'll see. We'll see.
You can't tease like that and then be like, "This is something I think I might want to."
I mean, I'm thinking. They're interested, so I'm thinking. Like I said, I got
I'm
about
thinking
4
that
chapters
you should just
into it.
do it because I am a enabler.
Yeah, of course you are.
Ask anybody, they will tell you. I won't. I'll be like, no, not me, you. You should do that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I have about 4 chapters into that, so we'll see how I do, where it goes from there.
I believe in you.
Yeah, but I have, like I said, I have a ton of other things I'm kind of
Yeah.
plotting around, but those are the things for sure that are happening.
Well, I'm so happy. Thank you for coming on. I'm so
Thank
happy that you
you.
came on. If folks want to connect with you and see all of everything that you talk about and write about and post about because it's entertaining, where can they find you? And you also
All
don't.
of all of my socials, everything is linked on my website, which is TatianaRichardson.com. That's Tatiana with 2 N's. Or you can go to all my social media, it has all the same handles, which is Richard Writes On. It's a play on Richard Wright. Richard and Writeson, Richard Writes On. And you can find all of my stuff there, even links to the podcast, everything. And the podcast is Romance in Color. That's romance and in color with a U, the
Mhm.
British spelling of color.
Yes.
And so you can find us on Instagram mostly and on X. But yeah, that's where I am. That's where I be.
Yay.
Thank
Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you.
you. I loved it. Thank you for
And
having me.
yes, I cannot wait for what's next to come. And I guess I'm gonna be staking out all the platforms that I buy my books on so I can wait for the offer.
The offer will be everywhere.
This is
Everywhere.
me clicking the button.
July July 16th.
It's a good summertime. Yes, okay. That's read. I'm ready. Okay. Anyway, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Until next time, y'all been watching Rae's Corner. Bye.